Here we are, another holiday. Welcome, welcome. So I'm looking to see who's with me tonight. Anybody here last year for the holiday extravaganza besides Leslie?
Fox River Grove is a good stop. Fox River Grove next.
What was that? Well, anyhow, so I don't know if that was meant for me. Regardless, thank you for joining. So I put together a little presentation for you guys tonight. And, you know, the holidays are such a scary time, but truly and statistically, we are at much higher risk of weight gain over the summer months. This is based on a lot of research, but the days are longer. We tend to socialize more often. Certainly being from the Midwest, you know, we're already, you know, bundled up in our warm houses, but, you know, the holidays do bring a lot of gatherings, a lot of festivity, but going into them with the right mindset is really what's going to solve your biggest dilemma. But the biggest research that I found last year, and I did a podcast on this, is, well, I'll ask you guys, since there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 of you, what do you think the average weight gain is for holidays from Halloween to New Year's? What do you think the average weight gain is? Any guesses?
7 pounds.
7 pounds.
7, 8.
I've heard 5.
Okay, so that is the typical, what we hear, average, but there was a huge study done in 2 years ago. What they did was they installed smart scales in 5 different countries, not only in the United States. So it wasn't just around our holiday. And they found that the average weight gain around Christmas and around the other country's biggest holiday was actually 1.5 pounds. However, the amount of weight that people will gain after the holidays is between 5 and 8 pounds. So any idea why?
Is it just perception? You think you've gained more, so you give up?
Maybe.
No.
Close. So the study found that most people don't weigh themselves at all, especially people that aren't conscious about it. And, you know, many of you didn't weigh yourselves regularly, daily. And so going into the holidays, these people certainly aren't going to weigh themselves. So your guard's down right then and there. And you have that conscious, subconscious mindset that you're going to start in January. So you have 2 whole months of, I'm going to start in January. So subconsciously, you are making poor choices for 2 months. And the closer you get to that holiday, the poorer your choices actually get. So the amount of weight that you gain at the holiday is only 1 pound, but the amount that you gain over the course of Halloween to New Year's could be up to 10, 5 to 10. So does that make sense? Okay, so, but the bigger part that I found fascinating is when people weigh themselves then, you have all these people that don't weigh themselves, face the scale the day after the holiday. They've eaten a lot, they're bloated. What typically happens when you weigh yourself immediately after having a really bad eating day? It's amplified, right? And so now we have that week in between, that weird 5-day week of in between Christmas and New Year's. And all we see on TV is nonstop commercials about weight loss and exercise and getting fit. And all we see laying around our houses are leftover Christmas cookies and garbage that we don't need to eat. And so a lot of that weight gain actually happens then after as well. So the point here is it's not just that one day. It is the accumulation of all the days. And I'm talking from 2 weeks ago on Halloween, when we started grabbing that candy, actually 3 weeks ago, when we started buying that candy is when it starts. So biggest point is be aware and make notes of what you're eating and don't let your guard down, because starting in January is going to be like paying off that debt. And so you guys are all the aware crowd. You're all obviously here, and enjoying your holiday is just as important as not throwing away your holiday. So I'm going to share my screen here and pull up my little presentation. And I know you guys don't want to see that, so let's flip over to this. And all right, so holiday food. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
All right, the survival guide. All right, so obviously you want to enjoy, but you don't want to destroy. And so often we go into these holidays thinking, well, it's a holiday. It's my day to eat. Well, if you stop and think about it, when we go into a day planning on just eating, we do truly stop enjoying the pleasure of eating after a certain point. So when we go to a holiday such as Thanksgiving, we're faced with a lot of foods that we don't get to eat year round. So be aware of that, and also be aware of the average holiday does pack on 3,000 to 5,000 calories in one day. And I know that sounds extreme, but believe me, when you see some of these recipes and all the butter that goes in it, it really is not shocking to catch 3,000 to 5,000 calories in a day. All right, so important cooking tips. Obviously, butter, oil, cream, sugar. Now, you're going to go to your holidays and you're going to have these items there. Now, depending on what your goals are, we're people here at all different levels in the program. If you just started and you are super vamped up with your fitness goals and your weight loss goals and you're hosting Thanksgiving, and you don't want to use all of these items, again, that's your choice. But it's Thanksgiving. So if you don't want to skimp on these items, watch your portions. But the bigger message is, if you do end up eating a normal amount of Thanksgiving dinner, the appropriate amount is to stick to your portions of what we normally eat, and make sure that you're not grazing all day long. Now, as far as your mindset, you don't want to go into the holiday. Oh, hang on a second. Did someone just get kicked out? I'm sorry. I lost. Sorry about
Connecting.
Yeah, sorry about that. You don't want to go into the holidays thinking that you are not going to survive, because just this week I've gotten a multitude of text messages. I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to be able to do it. You will be able to do it. That fear is a real thing, and you have to trust yourself. Treat the day like a normal day. I've made so many mistakes in my years of misdieting. And one of them was to, go on an empty stomach. I'm going to save all my calories for that Thanksgiving meal. And that's never going to go your way, because if you show up hungry, you're going to overeat. And, if you wake up in the morning, you have your normal breakfast, Space out your meals accordingly. And your last meal should be your mini meal about 3 hours before your Thanksgiving meal. You want your hunger hormones to be right at bay. You don't want to go into it with that just mad hunger because you will overeat.
Is this?
And of course, you want to watch for food pushers. And this is my favorite because we all love those food pushers. And incidentally, I have discovered that I've become a food pusher. So I understand what it's like to be a food pusher, but it's also very understanding when you say, everything's been amazing, Aunt Millie. I'm really full. I'm gonna pass on the pie. Thank you. They're not going to get offended. If you show up and you don't eat anything, they're going to be offended. If you show up and you bring your own, turkey and side salad, that's offensive. If you say that you don't want your second piece of pie, that's not offensive. So you can politely say no. And then of course, I just had this conversation with someone today. Have it if you want it. I have this wonderful client. She's lost 30 pounds. And she told me a story that she went to a sushi station for her 30th wedding anniversary. And she said the carrot cake was going round and round, round and round. And she said she's lost 30 pounds, round and round. She said, finally she snapped, she took it. And she felt so guilty. And I told her, you know what? You wanted it, have it. That's different than eating it because Aunt Millie shoved it down your throat and you didn't really want it. That's different than having it because it's Thanksgiving and it's there. Don't eat it because you just don't really want it. Don't eat it because it's there. We've all been to weddings and we've all eaten the cake because it's served to you and you're like, well, it's 300 calories. Why'd you do that? Why? Don't do that. Have it if you want it. And you know what? If the carrot cake's calling your name, have it, but don't eat 5 of them. So take that information. That is the information that you should take, not only from this, but every day. And just like I said earlier, don't show up hungry. Because if you do go someplace that has appetizers, I want to explain to you what happens when you're hungry. And you've heard me say this before in my podcasts. I talk about it in my book, but I think it's such an important piece of understanding how our bodies work. When you are hungry, when you've gone longer than 3 or 4 hours without the right amount of food, and I have here the amounts here for a really good binge blocker, as I call it. This is what you should have right before Thanksgiving meal. Something with 25 grams of protein, 20 grams of fat, less than 10 grams of carbs, ideally. Go on the website, look on binge blockers on the members page. I have some on there. This is going to block your binge. And so what happens is when we're hungry, the second we smell food, our bodies start salivating. We start salivating. That's just what happens. The saliva runs down our throat to our stomachs. Our stomach starts secreting enzymes because it's getting ready to eat, right? It's thinking food's coming, like you haven't fed me in like 3 or 4 hours. Let's go, right? And if you are hungry enough, it is really going to start secreting these enzymes because you are hungry. And this is when we start getting that, right? Well, that's not all that happens. Messages start sending angry messages to your brain. And then you get the uncontrollable, can't stop eating what's in front of my face syndrome. You know that syndrome? Especially like at a party, if you've had some alcohol and you just, I'm just going to have one. And then you're like, yeah. Okay. So have the 300 calorie binge blocker before you go, and you're going to save yourself thousands of calories at the at the appetizer table, because it's not worth it. You know, you don't need the cheese and crackers. You don't need the dip, you know, the hummus. You know, 1 tablespoon of hummus is 80 calories. One cheese stick the size of a cigarette lighter, this is, or an eye drop, Visine eye drop, is 100 calories. You know, how many of these are you going to take down if you're hungry? And you really, your digestive enzymes are just like, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me. And now you're in 800 calories. And so you could see how that 3,000 is going to add up, because you haven't even sat down yet. Okay. So don't show up hungry. This is the biggest tip I can give you. You know, this one's obviously an oldie but a goodie. Bring something healthy. At least you know you got one thing that you could pile up on if you needed to. But you know, I am a faithful believer in, it's Thanksgiving, you know, you can enjoy, and your body is resilient. Your body is, yes, going to display some extra water the next day. You just got to deal with it. And it will come right off if you drink your water, and you know, so you have to have a conversation with yourself. You know, do you want to enjoy your Thanksgiving and have a decent amount without going overboard? And then, you know, work it off the next day with just some water. Your body will bounce back. That's healthy for your metabolism. We restrict too much, and that restriction ends up falling into a face plant. So, you know, learning how to have that boundary is very healthy, but you also have to be in that right mindset to do it. So, you know, it's a bit of a slippery slope, and that's why I say it depends on where you are in the program. So choose your splurges. You know, scan the buffet table. You know, don't be impulsive when you get up there and you see everything. Take an inventory. You know, how many times have you gone up there? And you know, I'm Greek. My mom goes crazy overboard. I mean, you really need to take an inventory, because you miss out, and you get to the end and you're like, I should have had that, but you eat it anyways. Take an inventory, right? Scan it out. You know, don't eat the brownie. You can have that like in March. You know, have the thing that you don't ever get. You know, have the pumpkin, whatever that Aunt Millie brings, or whatever that you only get on Thanksgiving, if that's what you want. But so often, you know, I look around, and I know none of you are going to want to ever have me over, but, you know, I look around my family, and, you know, we got, you know, all the traditional Thanksgiving stuff, and then, you know, chocolate chip cookie, brownie. I'm like, why? Just enjoy the good traditional stuff when our plates are already heaping over. And this is one of my favorite ones. So if you haven't heard me say this one yet, design your plate. And I have to share how I stumbled across this one. Anyone that has kids has had the pleasure of, you know, making a plate for your child. So a few Thanksgivings ago, I had my daughter, my youngest, and I'm like, come on, make your plate. So make her plate. What do you want on it? Potatoes. What else you want on it? Sweet potatoes. What else you want on it? Pasta. What else you want on it? You know, turkey. What else you want on it? She says salad. Well, there was no room left for salad, so I, you know, put a little salad on there. So it was literally like carbs, protein, tiny bit of salad. Here you go. Have fun, right? So I go to make mine, and I of course just love my greens. So I throw on the salad, plop it on, and I throw on my turkey. And then I go to get the potatoes. There's no room for potatoes. I'm like, didn't have enough space for potatoes. And I was like, oh, what an awesome strategy. So that's what you should do. Save your plate, plan your plate accordingly. So we know that you should have protein, should be a big bulk of it. Obviously, you know how much potatoes you should have. And if they're candied and they're yummy and they're glappy, then save just a tiny little corner because your eyes are big. And so, put the healthier items on there first. And inadvertently, you're going to only have a little bit left for the not so healthy, higher calorie items. And from a palate standpoint, the first thing you eat is kind of the first thing your palate will acclimate itself to. So if the first thing you sit down to, you pick up your fork and you taste those candied sweet potatoes, you are going to want to keep eating those. So start with the lower calorie protein items, because that is what is going to be your favorite, you're in favor of as you're eating, if that makes sense. Try it, especially when you go to a party and you do go up to the appetizer plate. Don't touch the guacamole first. I've tried it. You won't want to leave. So go to the other palate, and you won't want that because you will. It's like that potato chip. Taste it once, and and use that trick when you get home from work too. If you get home from work, you're like, I'm just going to have one potato chip. Go with a different palate. Go with a carrot. Go with because you go with salt crunch, you're going to want salt crunch. Okay. All right. And watch the distractors. When we aren't paying attention, when we're socializing, we eat more. We aren't paying attention. Of course, if we're watching TV, if we're watching football, we mindlessly munch. Social sabotage, of course. Oh, wow, Susan, you look awesome. Would you lose 20 pounds? Well, then here, you can have this. Looking so skinny. Come on, you can have this. Now, and that's the real thing. Now, don't feel that pressure. Of course, you can be polite, put on your plate, do what you got to do, but don't it because you are feeling pressured to have it. But the social sabotage is a real thing. And do those self-check reminders, because the worst enemy is yourself. The worst enemy is when you have convinced yourself that you've over your limit. You've convinced yourself that you've blown it when you haven't. You've convinced yourself that you aren't strong enough. And just like all the other times, you've caved in. And that's actually you convincing yourself to cave in. And so that's you got your ego and your ultra ego. That's you trying to convince yourself to have another cookie. And so you have to step forward and go, this will be debt that I have to pay off. Ask yourself, am I full? Yeah, you're probably pretty full. Ask yourself, could I take some of this home and enjoy it tomorrow? Yeah. Easy. Remind yourself how hard you worked to get to where you have come. And also remind yourself of why you started this. Because you can enjoy this again later. In fact, you could enjoy it again in 3 hours or 4 hours, because let the food digest, and you'll get to eat again when it's time. So how many calories? Well, a typical appetizer is about 80 calories a bite. And I'm talking about holiday appetizers. I'm talking about dips, the cream cheesy, cheese sprinkled, crackery dips. They're about 80 calories a bite per serving. Most side dishes are 215 calories a cup. I did a podcast on this. I'm going to repost it tomorrow, where I specifically said half a cup of mashed potatoes is this. corn is this, and it's frightening, but it's because of the butter and the cream, and that's not to say you can't make it healthier. And then, of course, choose your drinks wisely, because not only is the alcohol going to add calories, but it's also going to add a lot of confusion to the choices that you're making, and probably a lot of regret to the choices that you may make the next day. And then, of course, savor the seasonal treats. Like I said earlier, don't have pizza. If pizza is your Thanksgiving meal, then that's great. But if somebody brings pizza as an appetizer, and you're debating between the pizza and the more traditional choice, obviously go with what you really want to do. But my favorite one, of course, is ditch the screw it, I blew it attitude, because you might feel more full on Thanksgiving because the foods are going to be different than what you're used to, or you might eat a little bit more. And that's where that self-sabotage comes in. But remember, you didn't blow it until you've decided to blow it. So stay within your boundaries and you guys are going to do great. Okay. And then obviously eat until you're satisfied, not until you're stuffed. And like I said, you can always have those leftovers. Look around on Thanksgiving. I always notice after Thanksgiving, people plop on the couch, they take a couch pillow and cover themselves up because it's just so filling. But if you do end up overindulging, you got to ditch the guilt. If you just started this program, you shouldn't expect to be able to tackle a holiday so early on. And you are going to get to learn all about it with all of this guidance that you're going to receive, and all of the mentorship that you'll see some of the other people that have gone through this program. And don't beat yourself up. The next day, everyone expect, you're going to see a fluctuation on the scale. It's like going out on a rainy day. You're going to get wet. It's going to dry. It's a fluctuation. But if you get on that scale and you let it defeat you because it jumbles you, and then you do end up derailing and laying around all day, that's when it's going to really make a permanent impact. Bounce right back, get yourself into that exercise routine, extra hydrate, and it's fascinating to see that come right back down. And I kind of cut in line there with that one there. So, all right. So any questions? No questions?
There's some conversation in chat about guilt, which is something that I refuse to do for anything that I eat. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I actually, I know my client later, my Sushi Station client is going to be watching this, but she's a newer client, and so I'm going to kind of use her as an example. But she was feeling really guilty about having that piece of cake, and the guilt is something that we really should disconnect ourselves from, because I think it really ties in with past failures with dieting. If you think about your history in getting here, most people that have a weight issue or have weight to lose have had diet failures, right? And so that has led to them because of overeating or failing to comply to a diet. And so that guilt manifests from there. And I've always made it very clear that this program is not based on restrictions. We have to restrict, but what we're doing is we are learning how to create boundaries. You know what I mean? And so if you haven't heard my podcast on driving in the speed limit, I'm going to kind of share a little bit about it. And I know many of you have heard it because I'm looking at the names. So I guess I'll ask you, and you guys can unmute yourselves and unless you have background noise. How many of you people ever speed when you drive? Okay. So when you're speeding, what's your boundary? Like how fast do you go before you go, well, I better not go any faster? Where do you draw the line?
15 over.
You go 15 over? Wow.
Depends on the
miles.
street.
You go
10 miles.
10? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I usually go 9, like just keep it under that, anywhere from 5 to 9 over, depending on circumstance.
Okay, yeah. So, I do like 8. So somewhere again, and I think someone said it depends on where, if I'm on the highway, I'll go 20 over. So anyway, okay, so my next question, why don't you go faster? Why don't you go 50 over? Or 30 over, 20 over? What stops you?
Because 10 doesn't give you a ticket, maybe?
Okay, there's the ticket, the consequence, right? Like you have learned that's a consequence, right? So you stay within your boundaries. Like you have learned, like, whoa, better not go over that. I'm gonna stay within my boundaries, right? So what I'm wanting you to learn about splurges and not having guilt is the same sort of premise. When we eat, we either stay within our boundary, we don't go a single mile over, we don't go a single calorie over, right? Or if we go over a little, we're like over here, right? We're like eating sleeves of donuts and like, now we're on a 3-week bender and I don't hear from people for a month, and right? Okay, I mean, this is typical, right? I'm not saying everyone, but we're either super strict or, I did really good, I'm out to eat and I had pizza and then, okay, a little bit more, I'm still here, I'm still in my boundary. I'm still in my boundary. Hey, mom, you want to go out for ice cream? I'm still in my boundary. I'm still in my boundary. I'm still in my boundary. Mom, you want to go out for ice cream? Okay, I'll have ice cream. Okay, I'll have a hot fudge sundae. Okay, I'll take a triple, right? I mean, that I'm just giving you an example, okay? So what I want you to do is, can you stay within your boundary and not feel guilty? You can do it. It's hard. So Leslie, you could stay within your boundary, right?
Yeah, am I unmuted?
No, you're not.
Yeah, I feel like I have kind of a range that I try to stay within, and I'll try to make trade-offs. So I read somewhere that, and this isn't an Irene thing, so hopefully it's Irene approved, but just as a rule of thumb, if you're going to go out to dinner, have the bread or the dessert or the alcohol. So I try not to do multiples of those in a day, for example. So those are kind of my boundaries. So you talk about ice cream. I literally have a freezer in my house dedicated to ice cream. We own a Dairy Queen. It's here all the time, but I'm drinking wine, which you've probably seen. So I'm not having the other stuff. So those are my boundaries.
Yeah. But my question though is like, and by the way, Leslie's one of my ambassadors. She's been with me for
4.5 years.
And has kept her weight off. So she's able to self-regulate, I guess, because what we often do is, I guess what I'm saying is you don't ever restrict yourself and feel guilty, thus causing you to go, well, I've had too much, so I'm just going to just let it go, and then
I
it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna, I'll just start Monday,
No.
start next week.
I used to do that, and that's what got me into trouble. Yeah.
I did too. So, but don't you associate you used to be guilty. You felt guilty about it, but now you don't.
Yeah, I don't at all. And you're right. And I refuse to feel guilty about it.
Right. So to what I'm trying to reach at here is anyone that does feel guilty for splurging, going overboard, that's something that should be worked on, because that guilt has a deep-rooted association to the inability to keep within your boundary, is what I'm saying. So there is no reason to feel guilty. It's just food. It was a slip. Think of in one day how many mistakes you make. Oh my God. I could tell you about all the mistakes I made today. Oh my God, right? But why are we so hard on ourselves when we make a food mistake? And so that's how you have to look at it. And so if you're feeling guilty about eating the carrot cake, you have to stop and go, well, why don't I feel so guilty about running out of gas and being stranded on the side of the road for 3 hours? Right? But we don't. Do you understand what I'm saying? So as you go through this guilt, remind yourself of other things that you do, to self-talk and get yourself to understand that the guilt doesn't belong in the equation, if that helps. I don't know if it helps. Did that answer your question? Hello?
Yeah, I think we were just talking, I think about the guilt that was in the chat, right?
Oh, I didn't see anything in the chat.
So that was Susan's question.
Oh, I didn't even see the question. I'm sorry. I was, oh, here we go.
Now, what
Okay.
if I am a pusher?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm late to the party here.
I did unmute.
Okay, who said, what did you say, Susan? You said, what if you are a pusher?
Oh, that's Rochelle. I am a pusher.
No,
Okay.
I said pushers at Thanksgiving, there's too many of them and you feel guilty because they made the meal and you want to, thank them by eating the meal.
Okay, so wait, but are you still eating?
Yeah, even if I didn't want to, it's just like, I'm showing my gratitude, like, oh, you made the meal, everything you give me, I'm gonna eat, it's.
Yeah. Well, so a couple things. One, I guess it depends on the situation, but two, you don't have to overeat. You could put on your plate what you
Right.
eat. But also two, put yourself in the food pusher situation. If you were the party giver and you were saying, oh, have some more cake, have some more cake, have some more cake, and the person's like, no, thank you, I'm stuffed, everything was wonderful, thank you so much. I mean, would you be offended?
No.
So that I guess it depends on who. If it was an angry mother-in-law, maybe she'd be offended. So I get, it's hard to know what the situation is.
Yeah, it's just like sometimes people make so much food and then you feel guilty, like if you didn't see their food go because they did all the trouble.
Yeah.
Maybe that's myself, maybe my guilt.
No, I agree, but still, my belief is, and you have to do what you're comfortable with, but my belief is if you go to someone's house and, I'm using my own mom, she cooks for like 150 people and there's like 20 of us. You can't be responsible for, making yourself sick and overeating, you know what I mean? But, you're going to eat an appropriate amount of food. It's not that you're not going to eat anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think But I think it's always guilt too, and like I wrote on that chat, that guilt motivates me though. When I feel bad, when I come home, like I ate so much, why did I eat so much? But then I think it motivates me the next day, like I gotta go stay in the gym like an hour more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and and what I was saying about my client earlier today was, it is good to have sustainable splurges. You shouldn't restrict yourself completely. So if you're somebody that is, really dedicated to your diet and you really, haven't had any splurges, you really should have some balance. You know what I mean? But it's not feeling bad about it. This shouldn't be something that upsets you. If it's something that you enjoyed, and if it happens more and more and more, then obviously, reach out to me about it. But and I do have a podcast about the guilt too. So
Yeah.
So Rochelle, you said you were a food pusher.
I am.
So
I love to
Don't go to
cook,
her
and I love
house.
and I love to push, and and I like to try new things, so that makes me want to push more.
So
So-
you could still push, but of course push, but when they say no.
Oh,
then
if they say no, I'd be like, okay, then I'm not inviting you again.
oh, it's hard. My mom's like, all right, go
Oh
home.
yeah, that's it. Done. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. So any other questions?
Oh, that's a good one, Leslie.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
We're having a whole conversation here in chat.
Oh yeah, and I was missing the whole party. Yeah, and that's the other thing, ask if you could take it home. I mean, because that's always a bonus. You can take it home and enjoy it later. So especially if it's a dessert, and that's one thing that's always baffled me. And of course, we would have to have a dessert, but we just get done eating the biggest meal of our life, right, of the year. And then within an hour, right, like this huge spread of dessert. There's just not room, and so, it's hard to get that all squeezed in there. So ideally, it would be nice to spread it out a little bit, but, your body will digest it, and the next day, truly, you're not going to be as hungry. Again, like I've always said, our bodies don't reset at midnight. Your body is, if you do eat a little bit more, you're going to have those calories still in you the next day. So, if you do want to kind of go under your calorie limit the next day by 200-ish, you're just not going to be as hungry. You're going to sense that. Or you might be hungrier. Sometimes we are hungrier when we overeat, so, but regardless. All right. So any other questions?
So should we log? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. I always promote logging, because if you don't log, it's a fog. If you don't log it, and it's going to be hard to log, but if you just make a mental note of it, it's chocolate chip cookie, jot it down, just do the best you can, because it'll at least keep you in the boundary. So, all right. Leslie, do we have anything else?
I don't think so. You guys feel better prepared a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. So, did you guys see in the newsletter the rewards program that I'm starting? Okay. Well, congratulations. You guys all got rewards points for coming tonight. So the rewards program, let me pull it up on the site here. The rewards program, it was in the newsletter, wasn't it?
Yes.
I'm gonna send out another just a separate note on it. So if you go on the website and you look under rewards, I have a nifty difty little page now. You have to go on the Get You Great site. you can go right here. Okay. So if you click on see rewards, it'll take you to the rewards. It'll take you to the rewards, actual rewards page that kind of explains it. But basically, every time you purchase a package, so you know when you buy your next sessions or your next tier, you automatically get points. If you tell a friend to sign up for my website, you get 50 points. Like super easy. If you get a friend to order a plan, you get X amount of points. I have my glasses on. If you attend a webinar, you get points. So we're taking attendance and we're giving you points. If you leave me a review, which I'm going to set you up with links to do that, you will get whatever that says for points. And I think I'm missing one on here. Friend orders a plan. No, I think I got everything. I'm obviously going to be adding stuff to it. So when you go to redeem these points, they're good for money. So as you go to sign up for your tiers moving forward, they're good for cash off of your purchases. And also, you guys saw that I'm doing the cookbook. And so this cookbook, I don't know if you saw, I posted it on Facebook today. I am putting together a 60-page Christmas holiday cookbook. And so in the past, I've done them, they've been a lot smaller, but I've done them just as downloads. So for this holiday one, I'm going to have that be $15 for non-members and $10 for members, anybody that wants to buy one. But I'm going to have a point system so that you guys can redeem your points and purchase stuff like that. And a lot of the other little perky things that we do throughout the year. So score up your points, tell your friends to sign up for the site. That's 50 right there. And also, if you guys RSVP, that's the one that's missing off of here. If you RSVP'd for this tonight, you got points for that too. So if you want to check your points, what you do is you go on your drop down here and you go to my rewards and you can see how many points you have. Wow, I have 0. Some of you have some. So the Lutens, you guys must have joined right when I did this because you got points for your own purchase. So anyways, the rest of you, obviously, as you continue to be members, you'll also get that as well. So, okay. So some kind of fun stuff to keep you guys active and give you guys some, more free fun stuff. So you can look forward to that as well. So, all right. So anything else? Now that I see I have my chat going here. Okay. All right, you guys. Well, I will be waiting to hear from you all bright and early tomorrow.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Thanks, y'all.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you all.
Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Bye.